lot of people kind of been freaking out about Georgia and a lot of players hitting the portal. Look, have they had some great players, but really good players hit the portal last couple of days, last week or so? Yeah, they have. All right. Like, I'm not going to deny that. They also have the number one class in the country coming in. Like, they still have dudes, Joe, in 2024 that are coming in that can replace a guy like A.J. Harris. Ellis Robinson IV from ING is coming in. It's a 5-star corner. They got Andre Evans from Tennessee who's coming in. That kid can cover. Am I underreacting to this? Now, I will say when you lose that many dudes to the portal, depth can become an issue. All right? Like, Georgia's not excluded from that, but they already have really quality depth at these positions any damn way. Why am I not overreacting to this? And why are so many other people overreacting to it, in my opinion, at least?
Because you shouldn't be overreacting to this. We always become prisoners of the moment when we see a couple of guys in a short period of time enter the portal, and it's like, oh my God, the sky's falling. This team is screwed. They're going to have a down year in 2024. But what you just said is so true. One, they're bringing in one of the most talented defensive recruiting classes that we've seen that they're bringing in. You talked about the corners, the defensive linemen that they're bringing in, Ellis Robinson, Justin Williams, Chris Cole, Jaden Randall's a really talented tight end in the class that I really like. They are always going to be able to refuel. They're always going to get high 4 stars and 5-star recruits. And the way that they've recruited over the last 3 seasons, what is happening this cycle was bound to happen. The rotational guys that are competing with the younger group coming in that are going to make it even harder for them to get on the field are going to get frustrated and they're going to leave. This isn't a circumstance where they don't have the premier talent on the roster. It's not like Texas A&M right now, who all those guys are hopping in the portal and they don't have the recruits coming in yet with a new head coach.
I agree with that.
There is such a good foundation that even if they lose Marvin Jones Jr. and A.J. Harris, they've got so many guys coming back, and they've also got so many guys that are going to fill in for those spots. It's fine. Some guys don't like competition, and some are going to want to go somewhere that they get guaranteed money and that they get a guaranteed starting position. It's going to happen when you recruit as good as Georgia does. I mean, the other part to this too, though, the Jamon Dumas-Johnson departure is the one that I think had people most freaking out. Might I remind everybody, most expected Jamon Dumas-Johnson to declare for the NFL draft. So we all assumed he wasn't even going to be coming back. So why does it matter that he's not coming back to Georgia? He might even end up declaring. It doesn't matter. It's not going to affect them. Smile Munden returns, which is more important than Jamon Dumas-Johnson. They'll be fine.
But when you have a guy that I get what you're saying in reference to you thought that he was going to declare for the draft anyway, but he didn't. And reality is he might go play for somebody else. And there's a likelihood he could play for somebody else in your own conference. God willing, and we didn't talk about Chris Paul Jr., earlier when we did our Ole Miss segment, the linebacker from Arkansas.
Yeah.
God willing, what happens, all right, if the kid goes to Ole Miss, then what? So those two teams play. I will say, though, I 1,000% agree with you. If they didn't have, more 5 stars coming in, literally more 5 stars coming in, then I would probably sit here and say, okay, they might be in a little bit of trouble. You can't lose 5 stars like that on a consistent basis. Guys that can really play and sustain. Georgia can because they're recruiting at such a high level. The one thing I will say, though, I do think Kirby's got to go in the portal a little bit here. He's not doing anything.
I don't disagree.
Okay, he's going to have to go in the – like, here's the truth. You need to do it on the outside that can play. You need dudes. You need proven dudes. Like, what happens if Georgia gets in the running for a Juice Wells?
Yeah, they should have been in that conversation, and they weren't.
You told me, all right, during the offseason that Alabama doesn't have the wide receiver talent. And I said, Joe, they do have the wide receiver talent. They're not showcasing it. Isaiah Bond might be the hottest wide receiver in the country right now that nobody's talking about. You're going to have Jermaine Burton, as an example, also has had to them, maybe not statistically, big year. You got to go get dudes, man. And that's the only, and I know Georgia fans are going to kill me for this. I think you need another weapon or two offensively. Now,
I don't disagree with that.
They're probably going to get, it's probably going to start. Now, let me stop everything I'm just saying. They're going to start getting some guys here in a minute. Trevi Etienne is still in the portal, and they need a back. So,
and he's very heavily rumored
to go to Georgia. Yeah. They're going to do some things. I'm not saying they're not. I just think that they, for me, like, and I'm cherry picking. Like, I'm very much cherry picking on what I think Georgia needs to do. Georgia can line up next week. They can line up next year with what they have. They're going to dominate people. Okay, like don't get now. They got a brutal schedule, but they're going to dominate dudes. All I'm saying is they're recruiting at too high of a level. They got depth coming back. Some of it you need quality depth, and maybe that you take a hit there, but or experience depth. I shouldn't say quality depth. You're taking a hit at experience depth.
Yes. I also think that there's a pretty nice example that we have right now this season. The team that literally just beat them in the SEC championship game, including us. We did it on the show, and a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, can Alabama win with young roster? Can they win with having to rely on Downs and on Proctor having to step in and play important roles?" And they have. Those guys have played at an unbelievable level. When freshmen have to step in and play, when you're recruiting them well enough, if you need to get them on the field, they can contribute. If you have a good culture, you're going to be fine. Right. Other thought, though, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, I texted you this, taking a visit to Kentucky. Some people commented on that Kentucky video. They're like, oh, they're not going to be in the playoff conversation. I still stand by that statement, dude. If that roster, if they get Jamon Dumas-Johnson, they're continuing to do some really nice things.
Yeah, and I think that they've recruited really well. They need to get better, a little bit better, in my opinion, on two areas. I think that Georgia's going to be fine. They're going to get ATN. They're going to be fine there. They got some backs coming in. They're just not a team that I worry about. Like, I just don't. Right. I mean, stars ultimately do matter. There's a reason why teams that don't recruit 5 stars like this aren't winning national titles, because look, you're going to hit more times than you miss.
Yes. I will say this. I texted you about a rumor, and I can't speak on it because there's not really a lot of sourcing behind it, but there was a guy that I texted you a week ago that was rumored to maybe enter the portal. If they lose any of their premier guys outside of Jamon Dumas-Johnson, then we can freak out. That's all I'm going to say. If what I texted you about comes to fruition and any of those big guys do enter the portal, then yes, we can freak the hell out. But I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, not hitting the portal. All right.
No.
But if it did, though, I'm just not. Look, I think that divisions aren't here anymore. And look, we didn't talk about this in the Ole Miss segment. Ole Miss does not have a brutal schedule. Georgia does, though. But Georgia can sustain it. Georgia can, look, they're going to run the football at an effective rate. I think they'll be fine. Now, you got to replace Brock Bowers. It's a big thing to replace, Joe. I mean, for the first time, you start sitting here and saying, okay, well, do they have talent? Yes. Or do you need to put them in your top 5, top 3? Yes. Okay. You also got to see some of this talent develop a little bit and see it on the field. I mean, dude, right now I'll put Georgia at number 2 for me. I don't care. Okay. Like, Georgia's going to be in my top 3 going into next year.
I mean, shit, I'm still putting them at 1. If Carson Beck comes back, I'm putting them at 1. They by the way, they have one of the most.
The only team that I would not put them ahead of would be Bama, mainly due to the fact of we could have the returning national champ returning.
They haven't won the national championship yet, so I'm not going to go that far. They do have, though, one of the most deepest and most talented tight end rooms
They
in
do.
the
Delp
country.
is a
And
dude. Delp can play.
they have deliberately recruited guys that play very similarly to Brock Bowers. Not saying that they're going to end up going on to be top 10 picks like Brock Bowers is about to be, but I tell you what, don't be shocked if Delp and some of those other guys that are behind him don't end up having really productive years. They've got some weapons. It's just like kind of what you're talking about, kind of like with Alabama last year, where we needed it. We need to see it be showcased and utilized and developed for them to actually be a legitimate threat.
Don't disagree. All right. Want to talk about some of these portal, some of the news in the portal? Where do you want to start first?
Let's start with our good friend Kyle
Let me say this. Frederick said that Cedric Van Granger is going to be difficult to replace at center. I 1,000% agree with that. 1,000%. And look, they played
a lot of games.
Well, and they played Clemson week 1, and you can say whatever you want about Clemson. Okay, I get it. Clemson's not a team you can just roll over and just walk in there and beat the shit out of them. Now, have teams done that? Yes. Okay, but y'all can hate on them if you want to. I'm not going to do it. All right.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.